I'm reading from the book Path to Happiness, and today studying the keyword release, which is the fourth keyword for the primary word in the 7-word system, sorry. And this has to do with the fact of our being, just being. We are, each of us, bound up by our very physicality and all of our other attachments. Yet the eternal truth of who we are cannot be permanently constrained. The eternal self is often called soul, and is made of fiery, expressive spirit, whose essence nature is absolute freedom. Before deciding to incarnate, soul had little or no comprehension of how it might feel to be encased in clay. It had no way to understand what it would be like to live in a world run by the fearful and violent. The measure of how shocking and distasteful this is can be seen in how quickly a newborn baby loses its purity of being and develops nasty qualities. By the time kids go to school, they all have an aspect of personality that is far from angelic, as it was at birth. Here we have the fundamental story of human experience, the interplay of ego and soul locked in a fragile body. One part is too angelic to live in the world and has a wistful yearning and the compulsion to reclaim its spiritual heritage. The other part is concerned with survival questions and tends to become fearful and overwhelmed by the harshness of physical life. It might be helpful for us to rethink what the ego is. Surely it is not more or less than our best survival strategy, expressed as a personality. It has some of the qualities of the protective shield, whose purpose is to secure a place and path for the soul's journey home. As the years go by, ego develops strength and starts to explore interesting possibilities, which are most delightful when they center on caring relationships. Through conflict and resolution, it firms up its standpoint and decides upon a visionary quest, by which it establishes its own creative take on life, a collaborative way of being that is deeply rewarding and yet free of imposition and compromise. It is a watershed point of awakening when the ego learns to trust the soul. This is the tipping point when faith replaces fear. Following this, there is a process of shining the light of faith into the dark corners of our fears. Fear knows that it cannot survive light. Light is absolute in its confidence, and fear is fearful, and so doubtful of its worth. Therefore fear hides. It has clever disguises and strategies, such as confusion, deceit, dogma, denial, misinterpretation, self-glorification, self-repudiation, addiction, anxiety, habit, and so many more. Light uses gentle weapons such as love, trust, forgiveness, beauty, and joy, but mostly faith. Strong in faith, we can seek out hidden fears and win them over to the light. In this action, we loosen our ties, which bind us into the imprisonment of fear, so we find release. This process acts out in day-to-day life events. From one moment to the next, we journey on and we have encounters with people, with physicality and with ourselves. In every encounter, the light and dark are entwined. Battling away like lovers, neither one is able to defeat the other as long as we draw breath. Breath itself is exactly balanced between life affirming and life denying. As much as we cannot learn only to breathe in, we cannot learn to live only in light. What we can do is to have faith that on exhalation, as we release life-giving air, we remember that it will be soon replaced upon inhalation with fresh air. That's how faith works. When we see the release of our beloved attachments, instead of feeling regret, we choose happily to keep in mind that something new and better is on its way. The people in our life are there as an expression of both light and dark, faith and fear, and are meant to come and go in their seasons. These changes occur in order to optimize vitality, since without letting go of what has been, we simply cannot progress to what can be. As we evolve, we notice the shades of light and dark become more subtle. wrong and right, those glaring primary colours, become pastel shades and even shimmer so that we lose certainty about which is which. Somehow the definitions lose their absoluteness and therefore their usefulness as the moral compass of life. They lose their grip on us. We come to see that wrong and right are constructs, relational, contextual, subjective, and ephemeral. If we seek what is absolute and objective, because we need to find something reliable and call it truth, we will become disillusioned. When the illusion is released, then we release our attachment to knowing truth. The best we can ever do is to walk a path towards truth. This path is very clearly signposted. In every situation, fear is saying, not this way. And faith is saying, this is the way. In studying the formula responsibility, reflection, rectification, release, we are gaining insight into how we move from questing to being. We learn that when we reflect upon our chosen responsibilities, we can make things right and be released from the attachments that hold us tight. Tightness is not freedom, not a soul quality, and words that feel like tightness are clues for us, the signposts of fear. These include things like ambition, need, control, angst, prideful self-love, bigotry, poverty, grasping and revenge, and of course anything we are obliged to do subject to the pleasure of a stern overseer. They deny us freedom. If we want to move away from fear towards faith, then we will release tightness in favor of an easy way of being. What we once desperately pursued, recognition, security, wealth, can now be easily released, along with many other comforts of the ego. The ego has been energetically binding itself up for a complete lifetime, so the process of release cannot be instantaneous. It takes time. It is seen as what people do approaching death. The very first lesson for us as babies when we arrive into this world is how to breathe. Nothing subsequently encountered is more important, and yet typically we give it no attention. If it ain't broke, why fix it? Death approaches, and it becomes appropriate to learn how to breathe well. Of course, death has been approaching since the very first breath, and yet only mystics have taken that fact as central to their way of life. To practice their mysticism, they first learn how to breathe, just like newborns. Perhaps it sounds strange to be advised that now we are more keenly aware of the end, we should start again at the beginning. Yet herein lies the mystery of life. How could it be found elsewhere? Breath is life, so the mystery of life is breath. All of what we do and what we are shows in how we breathe. And Sufis teach that when we master breath, we master life. Learning to control the quality of breath, we learn to ride the changes in life in joy, not fear. Daily breathing exercises enable this. Emotion normally influences how we breathe and interrupts the natural rhythm. Following a committed period of breathing practice, we will learn how, at will, to make our breathing slow, relaxed, deep, and rhythmic. This necessarily gives us the ability to put aside our emotions if we choose to do so. We soon find that all of our intrusive attachments have their foundations in fearful emotions, and we can choose not to have them anymore. By affirming faith, release can then be achieved. It is the letting go of the emotional attachment to fear. If when we forgive someone, we remember that we have, in a certain way, and we hold it against them, like, I've done you that favour, I've forgiven you. That's not forgiveness. Forgiveness is just letting go of it all, letting go of everything, forgetting about it. It's just releasing that. And there's this lovely practice which we can do, estaferela. I'm of God, you're of God, everything's of God. Why on earth would we hold anyone to blame for anything? That's the sense of this word. Forgiveness in the sense of just letting it all go, forgetting about it, that level of forgiveness. Astaghfirullah, 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 astaghfirullah. Ameen.